right, everybody, welcome back to your one and only The Fling Show.
Alan coming on the show tonight. I'm so excited. Welcome, Jenn. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you guys?
We're good. I have so many questions to ask you, and we're gonna dive right into it. But for the most part, are you back home and settled and getting back into your routines?
Yes, I drove home from Columbia back to Oklahoma, and then flew out first thing early Monday morning and back to work by Monday. So ready for the back at work. So
wow,
pretty busy schedule, and that's just the norm. I'm kind of used to.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the questions that I have coming up for you. But first, kind of one of the things I always like to ask our guests is, like, how did you get started in disc golf, and how did you get to where you are now?
So I started disc golf in Norman, Oklahoma in '99, and was able to learn by some of Oklahoma's best golfers, and the McCullens and all the guys in Norman, and then surrounding states like Texas and Kansas. Grew up playing there and absolutely loved it. It gave me, I think, probably like the best foundation. That's why I love the game, because it was just family back then. No matter like what state you were from, everyone just considered, golfers family. It was a lot smaller, community back then. But grew up playing in all of those surrounding states of Oklahoma, and played for 6 months. And Am Worlds was in Kansas City. So went to Am Worlds, and I had never played so many days of golf in my life. So that was back when like you did 2 rounds, 1 round, 2 rounds, like for
oh my gosh,
5 days. It was a lot of golf. So I was used to playing like once or twice a week. So I started off great. I was leading it for like the first 2-3 days, and then like each day by the end it was like drop the spot, because I think I was just like tired of playing, which sounds horrible, but I had never played that much golf. It was definitely a long week, and Kansas City gets so hot in the summer. So
yeah,
it was great. Ended up in 4th, and then pretty much moved up to pro right after that. There wasn't a lot of pro women. I think there was just a few in Oklahoma back at the time. So, you had to travel state to state to play, with any other pro women. So I ended up in Texas a lot. Got to play with Paige when Paige was a little younger.
Aww.
So we grew up playing together, and Des down in Texas, played with Des forever. And
yep.
Mel that I also played with last week. So it was kind of an old school reunion in Columbia. Playing with Des and Mel again was awesome. And that was kind of what it used to be like, just everyone was there at that tournament and the Masters events that love the game, love the sport, and just want to go and have a great time. So,
did you play other sports before you picked up disc golf?
So I kind of played everything through like middle school, junior high, that our school offered. I played basketball, ran track. I was a gymnast and did cheerleading. And once I got to high school, they kind of made us choose a sport. So I was pretty good at cheerleading and gymnastics, so I went that way. Had a scholarship to Purdue to cheer, and turned it down, not really to start disc golf, but to kind of stay and start a family and get my career, go to college. But that was at the exact same time that I also started playing disc golf too. So.
Nice. That's awesome. I have a question that my loving husband asked me right before he hopped on. He goes, ask her if she's always thrown really far or if she had to like learn that.
I honestly have always thrown really far. That's kind of always been my thing. And I contribute that strictly to the guys that told me, like, the further you reach back, the further you throw. So I took them literally and reached back like as far as I could possibly reach. And so, back then there was no YouTube or, videos to watch to how to learn how to play. And I still don't watch any videos, but I just listened to what they told me and did what I thought that they wanted me to do. And that's how I've always thrown the disc. And I've tried to tweak it a little bit, you know, making a shorter last step, trying to keep my arm down tight, but I've played for over 20 years. So it's really kind of hard to change your form. I just kind of let my body naturally do what it wants to do. So
I love that. I have that same philosophy about putting. I feel like a lot of players in the off season, they're like, oh, I changed my putt. But to me, putting is something, like you said, that it just like, it comes naturally to you. So like take what your natural motion is and just like practice it and make it amazing, which I think is exactly what you do with your bomb drives. So I love that you said that, because it just was like affirmation for my philosophy.
We're all different, like especially men to women, but even female to female, like our body types are totally different. Our muscle structures are different, you know, our arm leverage, everything's, you know, going to be a little bit different from person to person. So I do, like you said, think that you have to do what your body is going to do and wants to do. There's clearly some, you know, great advice from some of the best putters or throwers in the world that these things, you know, obviously are very important to one or the other, whether that be, you know, driving or putting. But I think you take that knowledge and kind of adapt it to your body.
I love that. I just, that's awesome. That's a really, really good piece of advice. Like, just don't fight what doesn't feel natural. So that's awesome. So let's move into talking about your US Masters tournament. Oh my gosh. I read an article today. Yes, that's so cool. I read an article today that said that, and I didn't know this, that you were even on the fence about going because of surgery with your mom. So just the whole story, just spill it out.
So my mom's surgery was scheduled clearly after I was registered. I mean, I've been registered for this tournament for 2 years now. And so I've really been looking forward to going. I was canceled last year because of COVID. So I was super excited last year to play my first year, being, you know, able to play my first year as a Masters player, and pretty much the entire year got canceled. So I, you know, was eager, I guess maybe even more eager this year to get out there. But my mom's surgery on her arm was scheduled kind of last minute, within the last month or so. My mom has pretty much any kind of bone disease you can have. She has it. So we were counted up, I think like 20 orthopedic surgeries in the last 6 years. So quite a going on. It was a very, very intense surgery. It took 4 hours to repair basically her entire wrist. They cut off 3 centimeters of her arm, took part of her thumb, took her part of all this bone, and I had to use cadaver bone as well to kind of like repiece her wrist back together because she has really severe osteoporosis. So really intense surgery, which went great. Surgery went great, but Friday I stayed with her. So we flew into Oklahoma Thursday night, my boys and I, to be with my family. And then Friday she was really good. I was taking care of her, which is second nature to me. That's what I do for a living, a real living, not disc golf. And so took great care of her. My friends called, Jennifer from Oklahoma and Terry invited my boys and I to Lake Murray for Saturday because it was my son's 16th birthday. So my, parents thought that she was doing well. So we went down to the lake, get down there, had a great time, called Sunday morning to kind of see how she was doing. And my dad said she hadn't woke up from the day before. So then it got a little crazy, a little hectic. She had been unresponsive for about 18 hours. All my great friends back in Oklahoma, from my fireman neighbor slash best friend, his wife, to one of the RNs I worked for and like best friends with, they all kind of rushed out to the house because my dad was very, very concerned with taking her to the hospital because there's no beds with COVID and everything. So he was really digging in the heels on not to take her to the hospital, call 911. So I pretty much tried to do the best next thing and just got everybody to her. But the best thing that we could ever really come up with is that she was just breathing so shallow. She basically gave herself CO2 poisoning. So she was taking like a real shallow breath in and not exhaling. So she was basically like completely lethargic. I got there, did a sternal rub and everything, and she still kind of wouldn't even wake up. So it was a really scary couple of days. I was supposed to be leaving for Columbia early Monday morning. I wanted 3 days to practice, 3 courses. No one likes playing 3 courses, but that's what we did. And they were all fun. They were great courses, so we enjoyed it. But I wanted that extra time to practice. But definitely Monday, there was no way I was going. She started doing much better. I got her on a routine and kind of got her back going good again. And she pretty much told me to go. Family told me to go. They promised me they would take care of her. But that was very difficult. I had called Innova and let them know. I had called the tournament director and let them know, and the people that I was staying with, that I probably would not come. And they all were like, even if you wait till Thursday morning to show up, just, give it a couple of days to really decide if you want to come or not, or if you need to stay. And so Tuesday morning I woke up and she said, get out the door. So jumped in her car, took her car and drove up. It's like 7 hours from Oklahoma City. So drove up there and just, I guess, tried to focus on golf, but it wasn't as stressful, I think, because I was still worried about my mom. So calling them multiple times a day to see how she was doing, making sure my boys were doing what I told them to do to take care of her. So that was, almost pretty last second that I dropped out.
Wow. Well, yeah. I'm sure now you're really glad you stuck it out. And I think, like as hard as those situations are, I think it like puts it in perspective, like when we're like in the throes of the tournament, it's like that's like disc golf is the only thing that matters. It's the only thing that's important. But when you have like external factors like that, influencing your mindset, you kind of take a step back and you're like, okay, I'm playing disc golf, and
I think really that's something I've really been working on all year, is separating disc golf that it's really not important, that I'm out there to do my best and whatever happens, but there's other more important things in life. Not that I don't love disc golf, and I clearly take it seriously, but right. It does kind of help clear the mind that it's okay, if it doesn't work out, that there's other important things out there. So
for sure, I love that. So like kind of walk us through round by round, because I know going into the last round, Owen had the lead, right?
Right. So it was pretty much the 3 of us all 3 days.
Yeah.
all 4 days. So the first day we played Harmony Bend, and Owen was up by 1, I believe. But it was every course. I don't know if it was the courses that we played. There was a lot of short holes. It wasn't, it was kind of birdie or die, but there was some really long holes too. But there was definitely, birdie, bogey, all 3 courses. So Owen had us by 1 day 1. And then we went to Indian Hills, which was one of my favorite courses, just because it reminded me of the Midwest golf, the cedar trees and some big, not open, but the first 9 holes were pretty open, and then it got into the woods pretty tight. So I really felt like if there was any course that I could take advantage on, that was it. I unfortunately just bogeyed 3 holes that I had been like almost acing. So I kind of gave up a few strokes that I didn't want to on that course. But I did gain, I think, 3 shots on Des. And then we went to the short course. Am I doing this in the right order? I can't remember. But same thing. We all kind of like tied. And then, it just went into the last day of, Owen still had me by 1. I had Des by 3. Owen had her by 4. Mel got us on the last day, which I was super excited about. She's another Innova team member used to live in Texas. And Hadn't played with her, I think, since like 2010 is what I kind of looked up. So it had been a long time since I got to play with her again. Her and Des had played together, been great friends for 20 years. So it was a amazing card, that we all, cheered each other on, wanted to be there, wanted everyone to do their best. Basically, there was never a moment that you could feel any tension that I felt. I don't know, maybe it was just me, but like even going into the 18th hole, I didn't want to know the scores, but I knew it was the same. Like I give a stroke, take a stroke. It was the same the entire round again. Owen was having a little bit of difficulty. She found herself in the rough a couple of times. So I knew that we were all pretty equal. Des was having an incredible round, mistake-free, which was exactly how Elaine played our final 9 at Masters Worlds. And so I knew that it was like super, super tight, but we stepped up to the tee, everyone high-fived. There was never talk of score. There was never talk of any of that. We were all just kind of playing. Owen actually thought I had won because, that's how much we just didn't know the score. So
wow.
No, I think we're tied. So
oh my gosh. Well, let me interrupt you really quick because Hemi has the video that he's gonna pop up on his phone because we're gonna get to like the final moment. So Hemi,
high tech fling show style.
I probably should have sent you guys for version.
Yeah, that would be good. Let me try this again. Let's see.
I have a little bit longer one that was taken by the PDGA.
Well, let's just direct people to YouTube, for now, because that's what I did. I found it on YouTube. The thing I noticed about it, first of all, Chris knows I like those long throw-ins for putts. The 100 footers, the 120s, they just feel, it's just so rewarding, and then in that situation that you were in, to throw it in was amazing. I watched it over and over, and I noticed you sort of like took a knee and had a little prayer moment. What was going through your mind at that point? Were you just like resetting, or what was happening there?
Well, first I'll kind of recap it all. So the very first time we played hole 1 on Sunday morning, I had pretty much the same putt. I was, I believe, a little bit closer, maybe. And I drilled the cage. And so Des stepped up and she had thrown it out of bounds right into the creek. All that creek from the tree right in front of me, all the way up to the basket's out of bounds. And to like 5-10 feet to the basket. So super uphill, everything out of bounds. But Des had maybe 100 to 115 foot throw in just earlier. So I had drilled cage, and then she threw it in the first time we played hole 1. And then we immediately went back, and they ranged at 145 feet, I guess, 145 feet. But I jump putted it because when I would try to kind of give it that throw, I was going too long. So that's why I had went to the jump putt, and it worked the first time. I think I honestly just stepped up and tried to do the same thing. It was awkwardly silent because my headphones had died, and I don't listen to music to like motivate me. It's more of just like background noise. And so it was really just awkwardly silent for me, which was, I guess, after the fact, really cool too, because it was just went from dead silence and to everyone cheering. So that was pretty cool. But I took a knee because I don't know, I just jumped, and how I landed kind of went down to watch it. And it literally seemed like it just took forever to get to the basket. And then when it went in, I think I was just completely shocked and grateful and thankful and amazed. And so I kind of dropped my head, just being completely speechless.
I was talking with somebody last week about the reason I love disc golf, and this even it counts for even short putts. It's like, it always seems so amazing to me that it goes in. And, you know, and I put in a lot of practice, so it shouldn't, but it does. And especially the long ones, you know, watching putt night at Spring Valley, there's like the 60 footer is the longest one. And just seeing those guys hit those from that vantage point from, you know, back at the clubhouse, it's just so amazing to watch and to do it, and then to do it, you know, for a championship, that's got to feel really special.
It took a little bit to set in. Probably a day or two to really set in. I mean, you hear that, but it did, and it probably made it a little worse because I literally, I mean, we took some pictures, got the trophy. I stretched Owen a little bit, tried to work on her core back, and then I got immediately on the road, drove the 7 hours back, was able to celebrate for an hour or so with some of my Oklahoma City friends and family, my brother, my kids. So we celebrated briefly Sunday night in Oklahoma City, and then slept for a couple hours and flew home and straight to work by 9 a.m. So it took it a little bit to really like this really happened. It wasn't just a I mean, I hadn't won a tournament in a while, let alone a major. So
major, is that your first major?
It is my first major. 22 years it took me a little bit.
Congratulations. I have to ask you, moved up to FP40, and are you finding the FP40 fields in your tournaments that you're signing up for where you're actually playing? Is that always an option?
There's not as many. I kind of picked and choose like which ones. A lot of times there's just a few. I tried this year was really my shortest but longest season. I haven't looked at how many tournaments I've actually played this year, but there's not very many compared to, I usually play like 25 tournaments a year. I feel like I've not even played 10, but every one of them has been like a major or like a really big event. This was my first year to play US Women's. Played US Women's, played Pro Worlds, played Masters Worlds, played this one. There's all these like big full week-long tournaments. And so I've taken off and traveled probably more than ever, but played a lot fewer events because of that. It's my expensive tour. But like I was like, this is not the way to do it. Paying for air travel for my kids and I, dog sitters, you know, Airbnbs for a week. Like I was like, this is the most expensive way I could possibly have done this year. But it was like I said, the first really year that I could play both. And so I had my mindset going in, even last year, I was going to play both. It was my, you know, to win, to have the opportunity to even try to win an FPO World Championships and a Masters Championship in the same year, I thought was super cool. So honestly, I will probably continue to do that for a while, even though it's rather pricey to take a week off work and travel that far to do all those. But hopefully next year I'll have a lot more time to also go back and play a lot of the events, you know, in smaller tournaments. I've missed a lot of those.
So let me ask you, does it depend on how many people are in FPO? Say if it's FP40, excuse me, like maybe 5 or 10, or if there's 10, you'll play FP40. Otherwise, if there's like 3 or 5, you'll play FPO. Is that how you kind of determine?
I've probably made bad choices a little bit too. Like Vegas, the first time I played, which I guess was not this year. I played FPO. The year before last, I played FPO 40 because it was my first chance to play FPO 40. So I did. And it happened to be that Vegas was a lot smaller field. I believe Kat was there, Paige was not. I don't remember how many women were there, but there was almost equal FPO 40 as there was FPO. So taking off a full week of work, I looked at the payout. First place in FPO 40 was equal to like second place in FPO. So I thought, well, that's a no-brainer. It's, you know, a big end of the tournament, first to kick off the year. I wanted it to kick off my FPO 40 career. And so I chose that. Unfortunately, I would have score-wise won FPO. So that might have not been the best to play, but I had a fantastic time. I kind of did the same thing this year at in Santa Cruz for De La, for the Masters Cup. I played FPO 40, but my scores would have won FPO. So that was a kind of a sad one that I let go. But I don't regret playing FPO 40 because I love the women I play with. We have a great time. It's a lot more relaxed. Would I have played as well in FPO as I did in FPO 40? I don't know. I love the courses. I play well on those courses. So I feel like I would play very close to the same, if not better, when they make you, you know, maybe push me a little bit harder. Both of those tournaments I won by a lot of strokes. So who's to say I wouldn't have played a little bit better, you know, being pushed harder in the FPO? I don't know.
Right. And then you have to earn your points, right?
Do what?
You have to earn your points to go up to Masters, like World Pass Masters.
Correct. I mean, we could probably just sign up. I mean, I'm sure there's a point. I mean, I know there's a point system, but I feel like I play in
leeway.
Yeah, I think we could have still signed up.
Good to know.
Yeah, I think at this point and like where we are with, you know, with women in disc golf, it's hard for them to like turn down a woman who like wants to play a tournament.
Right.
So yeah, for sure. So like, I want to talk to you. You keep bringing up like, I had to go back to work. I had to work. To me, you're one of the only like touring players that I know of who like does the full-time job thing and does the kids thing. And like how do you do it? I don't know.
So I've done it for so long. I don't think I realized how hard it was. But I've always, you know, I got my career when I started playing disc golf, which is also when, you know, I started in 99, had my daughter in 2001. So I've always and I graduated with my physical therapy degree in that same year. So I've always done all three. I never knew how much and stressful it was until COVID last year. Golf shut down. Work for me did not. We were completely slammed more than I had ever been slammed. I do home health care now. And so everything else was kind of shut down. Even doctors' offices had shut down. Outpatient clinics had shut down. So they didn't even want us to discharge our patients that we were ready to because we were their only like eyes on care.
Wow.
So we were still supposed to take in all these patients, but we couldn't discharge the ones we were ready to discharge. So it got pretty hectic and stressful. But yeah, until I was just doing one, and I would have like a weekend, or I wouldn't have to go practice because there were no golf tournaments. Arizona was literally banned. You know, I got not kicked out. I always say kicked out. I could not play DDO last year because Arizona was banned. I think that was the main one. I feel like there was another one that I might not have been able to play because Arizona's numbers were so bad. So last year was like complete chaos. And I didn't realize until, you know, as the year kept going on and then started this year, what that did to me mentally. Played a huge role on my mental life that I didn't realize, like I said, until after it was like too late to really deal with it because I was so busy. I didn't deal with it and stop and kind of give myself time to like fix myself. It wasn't until actually I was interviewed at the Vegas tournament when they asked me, I don't remember if they asked me about COVID or asked me like what they asked me, but I just started bawling and I couldn't even say like how stressful it was. It still gets me. So like all of that really played a super role in causing anxiety, which I had never dealt with in my life. And it's real. Like it is a real deal. There's a real big difference, and people laugh or say all the time, oh, you're just nervous, or they're the yips. There's a whole new meaning to yips now for me. I hate the term because yeah, we get nervous, we miss putts, whatever, but it was totally different for me because it was an actual anxiety attack. The only thing I can think of is, work to me and life to me is kind of second nature. And so putting was the most stressful thing that I did. And so I think that my anxiety attacked putting. Putting wasn't making me nervous. Putting didn't cause my anxiety. COVID, my daughter moving out, there were several things that kind of all happened in my life at the same time that caused me to have anxiety attacks. It just kind of showed its ugly face with putting. So that was a whole new experience in my life, which I've worked with this year to get not overcome. It's a work in progress that I think maybe, who knows if it's always there or can come right back, I don't know. But it really did make winning, my first major, it made it a lot more important because of where I started the first year, so.
That's beautiful. Thank you for being so vulnerable and sharing, because not many people, do talk about those things.
Yeah, I hid it for a long time. I didn't want to talk about it because people, are so quick to not judge, but give their advice,
Yeah.
Like that was the most annoying thing of people just saying, well, don't think about it, or just throw it in, or just relax, or, all that advice. Of course I would love to do that. When I had my actual full-blown anxiety attacks, I literally could not control my body. In Vegas was the worst experience of my life, to where it was like, what am I doing here? I'm not a quitter, so I couldn't quit. I wasn't going to quit. But it was straight on torture to finish the Vegas tournament this year for me. The best I can describe it is it felt like my body was completely on fire. I literally could not breathe. I would, be behind the tee. I was trying not to distract my card mate. I was on chase cards, which is kind of crazy when I look back at it, that I was playing so bad that I was still hanging in there. But, I was playing with Hokum and Kona and blinking on the last person on my card. But I was just trying not to distract them. I didn't care. I just wanted off the course. I didn't care what I scored. I was trying for them not to hear me hyperventilating in the background, So it went from that to trying to figure out what was going on, trying to get help, trying to, to get that under control in life. And then I kind of slowly tried to work myself back into golf, but it's a lot. It's been a process, and there's a lot of things that help. But I think for the most part, just giving your body and your mind time to heal, and trying not to force getting over anxiety, because I don't think it's something that can be forced at all. That's why I went with a turbo putt, because I I would freeze up, not fetal position, but I couldn't raise my arm to putt. I could not force it physically. So coming down was easier than coming up. Coming up, you kind of freeze. And so that's how I started turbo putting. Never turbo putted really in my life.
Oh my gosh.
But I could throw my arm down. And so I literally just tried to pretend I was throwing a baseball, threw my hand at the basket, and that's where I started turbo putting. And literally at Masters Worlds is where I kind of started the straddle putt, because I wanted to start being a little more forceful further out. And so I'd never really I'd always hated straddle putting, but I got to where, okay, I have a little more swing. So there wasn't just the way I was putting before, it just kind of set me up for my arm to kind of freeze. And so, and I even learned talking to professional help, that it is the freezing that I was feeling is a natural process of anxiety. That I was even told, like, even like, you know, your lions in the wild, you know, you have that fight or flight mechanism that takes over your body in a stressful situation. There's also a freezing point to where you just lose control. And that's what I was experiencing. So, you know, getting control of my body again, I kind of worked to where now I still love, now I enjoy turbo putting. It's very stress-free for me. So I will probably continue to turbo putt from, you know, 15 feet. It's very almost relaxing. Like, it's just something I can focus on, and doing it took the stress of putting off, because God, I'd never done it before. So if I miss, who cares? I'd never even done it. So it took the pressure off of me a little bit, as well as physically it made sense. And so then I went to the straddle putt for, you know, that 2025. And now I went back to, you know, my regular putt from like 20 to 30 plus. And so I really am kind of excited. I noticed this last tournament, like, I'm gonna go from like having so much stress putting to being like the most versatile putter there is, because I'm gonna master turbo putting, straddle putting, and, you know, regular spin putt. So I really like where it's taken me. It's kind of, again, went like full circle this year to having anxiety attacks, to being able to do different putts in any situation. So I'm excited to really work on that in the off season.
Yeah, I think there's definitely pros and cons. There was a point in my disc golfing career that I switched over to straddle putts, and like, to me, it's pros and cons, right? Because the pros are that, like, okay, like now if I'm back to my regular putting style, but if there's a situation where I have to straddle putt, I feel a lot more comfortable because I switched to that for a long time. But on the flip side of that, there's sometimes when I can't decide what should I straddle putt or should I regular putt, and then I kind of like go back and forth in my mind, and I'm like, okay, just make a decision and stick with it.
You definitely have to make a decision, and I was doing that a lot this last week before last. I would step up there and I would feel like the straddle putt helps me stay square to where I'm going to hit the target. Mm-hmm. So I don't have any, you know, comeback putts I had to make. There was no 3-putting, you know, it really eliminated all of that. It kept me on target, kind of like the turbo putt. You know, your pendulum release is straight. So, but I definitely felt like if I would have done my regular stance, regular putt on some of those, I probably would have made those putts where I missed the straddle putt, because it's a new style that I'm working on. So, but you have to step up to that lie, and I kind of just feel it out. Okay, does this feel good? Do I feel comfortable, you know, in this stance? And then you have to, you know, 100% commit to that stance, no matter what it is.
Yeah, I think the committing part is so important, because if you're wishy-washy while you're still physically getting into the putt, like, you can just hang it up. You're pretty much done.
Yeah, I think when you're picking a drive, you know, when you're about to, you know, you're trying to decide on which disc, if you are uncertain, it won't work out. You know, 9 times out of 10, you're going to hit the tree, or you're going to miss the line, because your mind is not fully committed to one shot. So I think putting, all of it's the same. You have to be 100%, you know, committed to what your decision is to execute it.
I totally 100% like agree with you for sure. Himmy, do you have anything you want to chime in on that? God. I know you do.
Oh my God. Jen, you touched on so many points about putting that we've been talking about for a month or more, and just things that are always on my mind. The thing about fear and switching it up. One thing that, 2 things that came to mind. One was, you know, Chris Sprague is a good friend of mine, and competed with him a lot. You probably did, you know, hung out with him. You probably know Chris. He was having problems yipping, and he had the yips, and this was, you know, before he won up in New England, I can't remember the tournament, the big one, Maple Hill. And he was like way down with me on, you know, 4th or 5th card at the glass blown or something. And he was bummed out because he was playing bad and he was missing putts, you know. He switched to his left hand inside of 20. And that was, and then he goes on and wins Maple Hill.
Yeah.
But as a musician, you know, I've been playing guitar for 30 years. And as soon as I picked up a ukulele, everything changed, and I started writing songs again. I did the same thing with the piano, and it's just so good to switch it up like that. And the things that you were talking about, thank you so much, because I'm gonna go back, I'm gonna listen, I'm gonna learn, because I have problems with that too, and I have anxiety and maybe not breathing problems, but I have a spiritual problem, you know, like I'll get down on myself and feel less than what I am just because of throwing a frisbee, you know. And it's easy, you know. One of our Fling show guys talks about, you know, you're just throwing a plastic circle, but I mean it's more than that. There's a soulful thing to it, you know, and it's hard to just put it in a box and say it's just having fun, because it's not. You're putting yourself out there.
I think it's the mindset that I am trying to get to, though. Of course, I mean, like, my winnings didn't even equal, you know, flight, dog sitting for a week, you know, so clearly we do it because we love the game, you know. But it's really hard to tell yourself when you've taken off a week at work, go out there and have fun. Just go have fun, you know. But we do play better. When we have fun, we're practicing, we play better. And because we take that pressure off of ourselves. So I think that's been my goal the last 2 majors I played in, is to go out there and have fun. You know, the hold my beer mentality, watch this shot. And I've done better. The final 9 of the Masters World Championships, I put that pressure on myself. I wanted to hold on to second. I wanted to do my best, and I had a lot of bad luck, but I wasn't playing as good as I had been. And I saw that, and I wasn't going to make that same mistake at the US Masters. I just went out there to do my best, and you've got to do your best. I think you have to take that pressure off of yourself. Mistakes are going to happen. We will not make every shot. You know, these are things that we have to know. And over the last year, like, it's like a red beacon now that goes off, this alarm when you hear people say those negative thoughts. I don't want to hear them anymore. You know, hate's a strong word, but it's hard to listen even when the people aren't talking to me, when they're telling themselves, you know, things like that. I used to do it too, when you say those negative thoughts to yourself. And so that's been a huge thing that I've really been working on, is what I fill my mind with, or what I even try to help my card mates, you know, fill their mind with, is everything's got to be positive. If there's a question of a doubt, like I said, it's not going to work. So, you know, just all those little things we think, you know, are just like chatters in between, you know, tee boxes or walking up the fairway. All of that goes into our mind. And so we have to eliminate anything that's negative to try to get a positive outcome. And it's definitely been my biggest goal, and it's something I will still continue to work on, definitely in the years to come.
Same here. Hey, I didn't want to let this go before I forgot. You mentioned about how your life was affecting your putting game. And the anxiety, and you were projecting your anxiety from your life into your putting game. That was an aha moment for me. And I realized, because I've been really working on being lighter in life, not just disc golf, you know, just why is it so heavy? You know, I have this belief that we go on whether we pass away or not, and we continue. And we're still light, and we're still, you know, the same souls that we were. So what's the big deal? So, you know, fear of death is a big reason that we have anxiety all the time. Anxiety for people that we love, anxiety for ourselves, for our pets, everywhere we're afraid of everybody dying or chaos. We're afraid of everything. So lately I've been really putting that into perspective with a different point of view. And thank you for bringing that up about how that relates to putting. It's you probably just made me a better putter. What you said. Thank you so much.
No, if you just, like you just said, like the stress of death, of chaos, that's all we've dealt with COVID over the last almost 2 years.
Amen.
now. Yeah. And so working in the healthcare, I wasn't treating COVID patients. We had a few that were recovered, but I was not worried that I was going to get sick. I'm a healthy athlete. All they said on the news was that athletes or healthy people were giving, being carriers basically. And so until I did that interview in Vegas, I didn't realize that was my biggest thing that caused my anxiety. I was so afraid every day that I was going to kill one of my patients. And, living with that guilt of possibly getting one of my patients extremely ill or death, I didn't realize, day after day, how much that was building on me. So I treat mainly 70 to 100-year-old patients, a lot of them on oxygen. And so I was just constantly afraid that I was going to make them sick. I wasn't worried. I did end up with COVID from a patient that I got it from a patient who didn't know that they were exposed after surgery. The kids got it as well. I do feel like COVID kind of not attacked my brain, but my main symptoms were migraines, forgetfulness, fatigue, that stuff really hit my brain. And I was recovering from that still when Vegas started at the first of the year. So I do think my kind of side effects from COVID also pushed my anxiety to an extreme, as well as other things like in life. Like I said, my daughter, who is my best friend, moved away, back home to Oklahoma to college. And so she was a big hole, cut out of our life. And so it just all balls up, and your mind and your body can only take so much for so long. So I've neglected giving myself those breaks for 20 years. And finally my body said, it's time that you deal with this.
Yeah. And that was my other question is how do you, you said you took some time to fix it. How do you fix it?
Like I said, I think it's a lot of little things. I talked to hypnotists. I tried certain herbal teas that helped. I tried the little incense relaxant, oils that helped, the breathing techniques that help, a lot of it. Dealing with letting go of your fears and with yourself, fixing, what is causing the stress and accepting that internally and personally. So I think it was a lot of it, taking time off, giving myself a break, telling myself it was okay, that I don't have to be perfect all the time, and I am not superhuman. So I think it's a combination of a lot of things, and for everyone, I think it's a different combination to get there. Like I said, I'm not there, but I have came so far. My last full-blown anxiety course was at Emporia this year. So I was actually playing well. It was the first time my daughter got to come back out and caddy for me for like 6 months or so. And so I'd actually made a putt and turned around, and it was probably like a 20-25. It was a stressful putt. It was one of those you feel like you have to make. Turned around, and I couldn't catch my breath. And so, tears kind of roll down your face when you're like, gasping for air. And my daughter looked at me and was like, what the hell is wrong with you? And she had never seen me have one of my anxiety attacks. And it was weird because, like I said, it wasn't like I missed the putt. It was after I made a putt. And it's weird when it does kind of attack you like that, but I think it's just your body you have to listen to sometimes. And when you've pushed it to the limit and you're stressing it out, you got to deal with that, or your body's going to make you deal with it. So I think that's kind of what had happened.
Wow. Thank you so much for, being open about it. And I think that's part of the healing process, probably.
Oh, for sure. I couldn't talk about it back then.
Yeah. Thank you. It's inspiring, and it makes me want to talk about it. Thank you so much. I feel like I'm already a better disc golfer.
And for me, obviously I'm not saying that like it makes me feel better that, knowing that there's players of your caliber and your level who like go through the same things, because I think a lot of us like local pros, if you will, they look at you guys and they're like, oh, like they never get nervous, like they've got it all figured out. But it's really nice to hear like firsthand that like, it's just there for everybody.
I think, well, and even like my brother and several people have told me, every major athlete, superstar caliber has went through, no matter the sport, has went through this. Being, Tiger Woods, or even most recently Simone Biles, you know, your mind has to be clear. And especially, being a gymnast background, like you could totally tell when she when she tried to compete and her mind was not clear, she was lost in space. And for that sport, disc golf, we're not going to hurt ourselves. But as a gymnast, she could break her neck, break an arm, break a leg.
Yeah, it's life or death.
It's life or death. And so I think as we play a sport or do something for so long, we internally build more and more pressure upon ourselves. Not so much like, you think I'm going to win, but it's the pressure that I put on myself to do. I know my capabilities. I know how good a golfer I am. I don't usually compete to that caliber, but I know I can. And I think year after year after year that goes by, we just build more pressure on ourselves no matter what the sport is. So I think we definitely, being at the high level, maybe deal with it even more. You look at your AMs when you watch AMs play, and they're just throwing in stuff. They don't care. And they don't worry. But that's when we play good. And so I think, as we really put that pressure on ourselves, that's when the anxiety really kind of comes out more, or the nerves come out more as we do get better players.
I think that it's so true that people say like, we're our own toughest critics. Because, I had a situation a few weeks ago where I basically lost a 4-stroke lead to Stephanie Vincent, and then lost in the playoff. And then I know. But then I came back the next weekend and like I was able to get her. But the only thing, like one of the only things that was like so prominent in my mind, like after the first round of the second tournament when I had the lead, was like, if I blow this again, like everybody's gonna think I'm a joke. Like, like nobody's gonna take me seriously. And I mentioned that like offhand to a couple of people just like in conversation, and they were like, Chrissy, you're insane. Like no one would think that about you, but like we are our own toughest critics, like I'm going to think that. So
that's why it's 15-foot putts are so nerve-wracking, because my kids who, never even play could, a kid could make that putt, someone, a stranger off the street could almost make that putt. So, I mean, that's why those short putts are so hard, is because we don't want to miss it, because we would look stupid missing it, So it's the hard part of the game is finding that mental balance of, I got to do my best and I'm not going to put the pressure on myself, and it doesn't matter, but still do our best, So it's a difficult balance for sure.
Totally. Wow. Well, this wasn't really how I was expecting our like the turn that I thought our conversation was going to make, but I'm so glad it did. I love the you know, I love the candor, and I just love like opening up about the mental side of disc golf. It's so intense. Before we before we move off of it, Hemi, do you have anything else like in regards to mental?
No, I've you know, I'm going to go back and take notes because I've learned so much tonight, and I'm just so grateful that you opened up for us, and it really did shine the light on my problem. I feel like in the last couple of weeks, the putt has come together, and I'm not as yippy as I was before. I'm starting to make putts again, but now it's on the box. You know, it's somewhere. It's going to show up somewhere. But now that you know that you've imparted this wisdom to us, you know,
take a deep breath.
I'm like, now I can re-examine what's going on off the box, because something's happening, you know, mentally. It's not a skill thing. I know how to do it.
You know how to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
I was really proud of myself because I've always been one of those that tried to rush my drive or putt or whatever, because I always just felt like, okay, you know, everyone's standing around and waiting on me. Like I hated the pressure put on myself that people might be waiting on me. And so I always rush things, I feel like. And on 18 going into push the playoff with Dez, I played it safe, even though the commentary was bad. Okay, but I was trying to play the safe all the way around. Dez, the very first day we played that course, she had said, I just chipped my way around and got my 4. And I had been aggressive and got a 6 because I went out of bounds. So I was, you know, telling myself, I know that we're close. I cannot go in the creek. I'm going to kind of just play it short around with mids and try to get the 4 like she did the first day we played it. And so I went putter, and then another mid, I went Cayman, and then I had an up shot across the creek. And I was so proud of myself because, I mean, I didn't know the score, but I knew that shot would matter. It was going to make or break the whole tournament. And I stopped, I took a deep breath. I even went back. I drank the herbal tea. In my jug is actually tea, not water. And so I stopped, I took a sip of my tea, took another deep breath, and just tried to focus. And if we give ourselves time and really take those deep breaths, a lot, not all the nerves, but a lot of that nerves, you know, it'll bring us back down. And I was able to execute the shot, tiny gap shot through the trees successfully. And so that's something that, you know, even not just this year, but that's something as a player for the last 20 years, I've never really taken the time to do. So that's something I really look forward to continuing working on, is giving ourselves that time. It's okay. We paid our entry too. You know, it's our time as long as we stay in our allotted time. But that's our time. You know, use it, take your deep breath, and execute the shot. So I was really, that's something I'm really working on, and I was glad that Mako shot across the creek, I think, was the reason I won, almost as much as throwing it in. So
that's so awesome.
I know what you mean about taking your time and feeling like you got to get out of the way, like you got to get this over with, so you won't be the one they're watching, you know. Yeah.
Or if you think that you're nervous, so if I do this quick, I won't be nervous. Mm-hmm. And that'll backfire on me every time. So, you know, if it is on the tee, you stop, you take a deep breath, take 3 breaths, you know, and then execute the shot. And I think it really, really benefits the end result of what's going to happen with that shot.
Wow.
I think I read in a book somewhere, or I heard on a podcast or something, and it was like, when you think you're ready, take 1 more second and then you're ready. And that kind of, I feel like, is in line with what we're talking about. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, I feel like I rush things a lot too often. You're trying to, like, where are you going? You know, you're trying to get somewhere, and all you really need to do is just get to the shot and throw the shot. Mm-hmm. I sometimes feel like I'm the first person running down the fairway, or, I'm the first person to my disc, or, and then you see the players that are, in the lead, they're just kind of meandering around, and they'll eventually get there.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Chris, we haven't heard from you. How's it going tonight, Chris? Do you have a question for Jenn?
Well, a question and a statement also. It's been nice to be able to sit here and listen to this. And I concur with what Chrissy just said. It's not often that we are able to get into such deep thoughts, especially in the situation that you put yourself in the last year. And I've always lived by a small code, is that, you never know what someone else is going through. No matter if they're standing right next to you, no matter if you've known them for a long period of time. 90% of the things that we think alone. 10% of the things that we think sometimes are out loud. So you spend a lot of time in here. And so I do appreciate you bringing that up, because you oftentimes, and I know this because growing up as a single mom, and I'm not saying you're a single mom, but mothers in general, that the effort and the things and the responsibilities that you do on just a daily basis when you have kids, a job, and then you also have something on top of that is something as extracurricular, something that you really enjoy. It takes so much time and effort. Like you said, you never sit back, and sometimes you think, oh, you said something earlier, and I often think the same thing. You go, well, I'm not a Wonder Woman, but the reality is you really are. Because the things that you put yourself through and the things you did for those 20 years, my goodness gracious, I get to see that with my own wife, and I got to see it with the people on this show as well. So don't sell yourself short on that, but I really appreciate you opening up that. But I always leave people this: don't ever think that you know what's going on.
It's so true. And I've always, had to, we cover it up for our children. When you have a bad day, you've got to cover up and look strong. We've always covered up in work and healthcare. I've got to take care of my patients. It doesn't matter how bad of a day I'm having. I don't talk about myself. It's all about them. And I think, that's probably why I've masked my own mental health for so long, is because I've always kind of had to do that. I did it in my job, and I did it as a mother, as a single mother. And so I really think that's why it kind of just finally, my body said enough, because we cover up, and it's for sure, you don't know, a lot of us, especially I would say in healthcare right now, hug a healthcare worker. They went through a lot over the last, almost 2 years, and all your first responders and all that. We have to ignore what's going on in our own lives, or everything, dealing with COVID in our own way, as well as dealing with it at work. And so you cover that up, and you don't know what they're going through. So I 100% agree. And be nice to everyone, because we don't know what they're going through. So
that's such a good point. Do you think that what you have gone through, like as an employee in the healthcare industry, has it given you like a different more of an appreciation for disc golf, like having that kind of like outlet?
I always have said that I thought my job, having a full-time job, whether it be healthcare or not, and also trying to do disc golf as well, has always balanced each other. I got to come home and go back to work, whereas living on tour is exhausting in its own way. By the end of the year, everyone who lives on tour is exhausted. And I'm just as great at the end of the year usually as I am at the first of the year, because I'm always home back and forth. And the stress of my job is always calmed because disc golf, that was my outlet for that. So I always have felt like they balanced each other very well. But yeah, when golf was gone, then I had all this free weekends and a little extra time. I just had one job, I didn't have a job. And that's when I realized like how exhausting it was. I didn't realize how much I was always going until golf was kind of taken away from me. So it's a whole new perspective.
Yeah. Well, I hope that in the future you come back and chat with us some more, because I have like a million more questions for you, but we unfortunately are running out of time. So I guess, last but not least, at this point, do you have any sponsors or any individuals or anybody you'd like to say thank you to?
Well, I want to thank Innova again. These are absolutely gorgeous. They put them back up today. What they have is what they're going to sell. They won't make these again. So if you do want to go to the Innova Pro Shop, pick one of these up. They are absolutely stunning. I just got mine a little bit earlier today. So thank you again, Innova. This is better than any trophy I could ever have. Like, I don't know, just super special to me. Grip as well, grip bags has always, been there for me. SoFly, the knee pads are fantastic. And my kids and family and friends and everyone who's always there for me. So. And thank you guys for having me on. This is the most I've ever talked about my last year. So,
thanks for doing it. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
We're so honored.
We've been doing this for, I guess, almost 2 years now, Chris. A year and a half, going on 2 years. But this is hands down my favorite one. And thank you so much for opening up and giving us so much to chew on. It's amazing. I was thinking how to wrap it up, and I was thinking, well, it'd be cool if Chris could work up some kind of Wonder Woman thing with your image there, and with your blessing, maybe we'll put that out with the video for next week. Thank you so much for coming and talking to us.
You're welcome. Thank you guys.
Yes, thank you so much.
All right. Well, with that, I think we're done, right, guys?
Yeah. That was lots to chew on. I'll be rewatching that and taking notes for sure. But thank you, Jen.
You're welcome. Thank you guys so much.
All right. Good luck moving forward.
All right. Good night, you guys.
Good night, y'all.
Good night.
Good night. Peace. Throw something in the air. Play disc golf.
Play disc golf.
Peace.